I'm conflicted, but it might not be in the way that you think. Let's start the conversation by bringing up God of War and how they're remaking the trilogy, the new title that's already out, God of War Sons of Sparta. I need to buy that actually. But specifically, let's speak about God of War 2018. God of War 2018 was my very first experience with a God of War game. I didn't play anything God of War prior to that. And from the moment I turned that game on, I knew that it was a masterpiece. I knew that it was something that I had been pretty much neglecting and putting off, and it was something that I should have indulged in far sooner. From the moment that you're cutting down that tree for his wife's funeral pyre in the beginning, I knew that this was a story that I knew that this was a game that was heavily based upon story and upon symbolism and using thematics in a way that could push a much larger message, and that this isn't just a game, it's bigger than a game. That's what all that I got from God of War 2018. And I think that was important because that was just the very first experience I've ever had with that franchise. And then you get to God of War Ragnarok, where you see a continuation, so to speak, of Kratos and Atreus's bond as father and son. You see the growth, further growth in his character. And this has come from someone who's only played the 2018 title. And then just 4 years later, I get the follow up to that. And I can see the growth in his character. I see the growth in his son, who's learned to become a man, learning to navigate godhood and what that means and those implications. And he's trying to, it's hard, but he's living in a world where he needs to contain his expectations and his excitement and curiosity about his own nature, so to speak. So that dynamic between Kratos serving as a parent and as a disciplinarian and someone who's trying to teach this young son how to navigate godhood, that was interesting to see as well. Now let's revert back to the original trilogy. After playing those first two games, 2018 and then Ragnarok in 2022, I go back and I played the trilogy for the first time, and I'm like, wow, this is completely different from what I've been accustomed to. And that's the traditional sense of God of War. And I think in Sons of Sparta, that return to that more traditional sense, I think that may be more potent and more important holistically from an effectiveness of the entire franchise standpoint. I think that might be better in the grand scheme of things, because there are people who are truly nostalgic about this franchise far more than me. I love God of War, but there are people who've been following this for years. As I said, I didn't play till 2018. And I know this game means a lot to them. And I think people, even though something is different, they should embrace that differentiation between titles and between series and between franchises. Because when you play something that is just so similar to multiple things that are out at the same time, which God of War can never be because it's its own thing, it's unique, but you can kind of develop a sort of fatigue for that genre. And I think that's why you'll hear people who will say things about Souls fatigue, which me personally, I don't have. But you'll hear people speak about that because these titles, they're similar. They're all sort of realmed and based within the same type of premises and type of characteristics. Like that dark fantasy thing that you see in Souls games, you see that reflective in a lot of things. And I think that's why people have this Souls fatigue thing. And with God of War and them transitioning back to a more Greek saga like thing with Sons of Sparta, I think that is exactly what the franchise needs in the interim until we get another bigger announcement, which is quite frankly what I expected what we would have gotten at this state of play, but it's okay that we didn't. And I just think people should just give it a chance, you know? And kind of a way to exemplify this, I remember there was a show on Netflix, it was called Gotham. Gotham chronicles Bruce Wayne's story from that little kid who witnesses his parents getting killed in an alley all the way up to him becoming Batman. My sister first told me about it at the show's onset when it aired on Netflix. And I told her, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch something where Batman is already established. I don't want to watch all them being kids and them navigating this. And then once I said that, I kind of had that degree of introspection. I realized, well, it's the fact that they are children. It's the fact that it shows you how things happen, which makes the story and which makes the show enticing. That's why you should watch it. It's a how-to. It's show not a how-to. It's an origin story. It shows you how things came to be, how Poison Ivy came to be, how Batman became Batman, what happened to him, how Alfred trained him, the things that conditioned him, the things that helped him see things from a certain perspective, why he doesn't want to kill, why he was in certain instances when he was tempted to kill. It's important to see the origin of how things occurred and how things happen. And it's one of my favorite shows ever. And I think people should just do the same thing with regards to this. It's not a continuation of the Norse saga, or it's not the next saga after the Norse, but it's more so a regression back to the Greek saga so you can see how Kratos was prior to the killing machine that we all have come accustomed to know. There's far more depth to that character than people realize, and I think that's exactly what the developers for this game at Mega Cat Studios are intending to do with Sons of Sparta. Now, as I said, 2018 was my very first God of War experience. I played it for the first time during COVID in 2020. But after that, I revisited the original trilogy, and T.C. Carson, he is a goated voice actor. He's amazing. He did an amazing job. And despite the fact that Chris Judge is my God of War, because that's the one who I am more accustomed to, even though I have limited experience and limited interaction with T.C. Carson as reprising the role of Kratos, it still felt so complete, so to speak, to see that he was back and to see that he would be voicing Kratos again for Sons of Sparta, and to see him in the trailer and the overview content of the upcoming game. Just to see all of that, it just was refreshing, and it's odd. And I mean that in a way as to give him a compliment. It just goes to show, I guess, of how appropriate he is for that role. Now, this next game, it didn't release at the State of Play this past Thursday, but it's something that I saw weeks ago. It was just sitting in my queue on YouTube, and I kept meaning to watch the video. After finally watching it, it kind of was a disappointment, not in terms of who made the game or what the game is, but of what we're expecting and then what we got, so to speak, And that game is Horizon Hunter's Gathering. And I get they're trying to try something completely different, which I do not fault them for. I praise that. I champion innovation and people trying to make new iterations of things. But we've heard nothing regarding Horizon 3 and the implications of where that story could potentially head to after the ending of Horizon 2 for Forbidden West. Silence didn't go to space. There's an impending threat coming. And I think I can speak for everybody by saying that we're excited and we all want to know what's going to happen with that. Now, I will give praise to Hunter's Gathering because the art style looks incredible. It kind of looks of like the Spider-Verse version of the Horizon universe, if I had to describe it. That's exactly how it looks. The animation looks pristine, it looks nice. The voice acting sounds good. The environments, they are aesthetically pleasing. It just isn't something that we were expecting, and I think that's where in lies the degree of disappointment. And it's ultimately okay that they're trying to innovate, but it just was kind of disappointing not to hear anything from Guerrilla Games pertaining to Horizon 3. Another issue or gripe that I have with the game is that it doesn't seem to be single player based, and that's something that's unique to me. I'm sure there are other people who prefer single player games too, but that's just my gripe, is that because I'm not someone who's big on like Fortnite or multiplayer games or team-based games. That's not my thing. I hate those type of games. So Hunter's Gathering not appearing to be single player narrative driven, that's something that will kind of immediately deter me from wanting to play it. And it's a similar thing that you see with FromSoft and how they've been making Night Rain and how they have the Dusk Bloods in development. It's just not the cup of tea for everybody. And I think they'll find an audience who will love that game, but there will be a staggering amount of us as well who are awaiting Horizon 3, and we want that return to single player narrative based games. We want to see Aloy's adventure and that continuation of it. Now, next, let's talk about concealments about the State of Play and about PlayStation news in general as of late. I have not heard anything about Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, the new game that's supposed to come out by Naughty Dog, the people who make The Last of Us. Ever since that, I think that was the teaser or reveal trailer, whatever that was, it might have been last year or maybe even the year before when I saw that. It's just been forever and they've been pretty much radio silent, which I guess in turn could be a good thing. No news is good news potentially, because that means they're working, they're cooking, they're trying to develop this IP. But it would have been nice to get a new update from them. We heard from Sony Santa Monica. We heard from Guerrilla Games. It would have been nice to hear from Naughty Dog. Hell, we even got a John Wick game. So it would have been nice to hear from Naughty Dog as well. I think that would have been the perfect time to give some sort of progressional trailer to show us like, hey, this is the progress that we've been making. And, just letting you know we're still here. We're just hard at work. It would have been nice to see that. It's okay that we didn't get it, but it just would have been nice to see. Those of you who do not know, because I myself don't even know the totality of the game synopsis, this is on the official PlayStation site, and it reads, set thousands of years in the future, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, puts players into the role of Jordan A. Munn, a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on a distant planet known as Semperia. Jordan will have to use all her skills and wits if she hopes to be the first person in over 600 years to leave its orbit. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, has been in development since 2020 with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scoring a stellar soundtrack to accompany you on your adventure. So this already entices me because, number one, it's made by the people who make The Last of Us. Number two, they're already incorporating and they're founding the basis that there's going to be more survival mechanics and more survival-based gameplay. So that's something that also will bring in a lot of gamers and more people who play The Last of Us. And then lastly, It has a nice soundtrack. I love the music, and I think that's an underrated part of the game. So this is just for those who needed more information on it. You know, and there are also some other titles that I wish we could have saw more updates on at the State of Play event, or even just in recent announcements. Like, for instance, probably my most anticipated game for this year, and this year is absolutely stacked. It's probably Phantom Blade Zero, and we have already gotten a release date, which is the important thing. But it would have been nice to see more about that as well. But it's okay that we didn't. I'm not trying to complain or anything. Another game that I wanted to see was more Lego Batman, but we got a release date for that as well, so that's cool. It would have been nice to see more information regarding Lords of the Fallen 2. We do not have a release date for that yet, but they did recently released a new trailer from their podcast where the developers of Lords of the Fallen 2, they speak about the game, about their developmental process, about changes that they're making, and they recently showcased this new thing called alpha gameplay, and it looks amazing. It looks stunning. So just waiting on a release date for Lords of the Fallen 2. Some other games we could have saw. It would have been nice to see more about The Plague Tale, the new game coming in, which is a prequel. It's not, Amicia and Hugo's journey is done, but it's not something following that. It's not the aftermath of those games. It's a prequel pertaining to Sonya, who Amicia and Hugo meet during the first two games. I think they met her in the second game specifically, but it's in a time prior to that. So it'll be starring and revolving around her. So it would have been nice to get more information about that game too. It's still slated for release for 2026. We just don't have any specific information about when we could potentially see that. And another game that I'm incredibly excited for is called Tides of Annihilation. They released a new, not a trailer, but it was like some sort of teaser, maybe some sort of promotional video. It's called the Year of the Horse video for Tides of Annihilation, and it shows Gwendolyn, the protagonist, and the combat for that, the setting, the world building, that looks intriguing as well. That's something I also want to see, because we don't have a release date for that either. It's not even, I don't even know if they intend to release that this year, because if you open the PlayStation app, it still says to be determined. So it would have been nice to at least get a range of when we could potentially hope to see that. And then I know there are a lot of guys who are hoping for more GTA stuff. Me personally, I don't care for GTA. I don't play it. But I know a lot of you guys do play it, and you do follow that and Rockstar. So hopefully y'all get more information for that. Just wishful thinking for you guys. Now, games may not always be what we want them to be, but perhaps that is exactly what is needed to keep people's expectations in check. We are at mercy of the creativity of the developers, and the developers themselves are at the mercy of our discretion and willingness to purchase their products. I say we should embrace these new titles, even if they're not what we expected them to be. I, for one, am going to purchase all those other titles I mentioned. I'm going to keep an eye on Hunter's Gathering. I probably won't pick it up, but I'm still going to keep an eye on it. I love Guerrilla Games and their IP Horizon, and I'm for sure going to buy Sons of Sparta. So I think we all should just keep an open mind heading forward. I'm Harlem. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.